Hey, Tiger fans, welcome in. We are live for another Monday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. Hope you and your family had a wonderful weekend. I thank you as always for tuning into the show. It is Monday, June 15th, 2026. Got a lot to get into on the show today. Going to be a very LSU baseball heavy show today. That's what we'll talk about most on the show today. Excited to get into it because we definitely have a lot to get into, a lot I want to talk about on the LSU baseball front. But before we do, want to take the time, as always, to tell you about our wonderful daily sponsors over here at the Babin on the Bayou show. First, the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Shield Heating and Cooling, 22546 Bayou, 22546 Bayou, BAYOU. That is the number for your free AC system clean and check for every AC system in your home, courtesy of our friends and the wonderful team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Plus, Sugar Me Sweets, cakes and confections. They have it all, from fresh baked chocolate chip cookies, cupcakes, cake squares, custom decorated cakes. They have it all. 225-250-1950, 225-250-1950. That's their phone number, or you can visit them, as always, in person. City of Central Louisiana. That is where their bakery is located, 8565 Rome Drive, 8565 Rome, ROME Drive, for our friends over at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes, and Confections. And last but most certainly not least, great friends, great people, great team over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction. Great people, great team, high quality work, the team over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction. Trustworthy, dependable, and reliable. If you're in the Baton Rouge area or the surrounding Baton Rouge area and you have any plumbing needs, give our friends over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction a call today. That phone number is 225-512-2900, 225-512-2900 for our friends and the great team over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction. As always, we say it on every show. We very much love and appreciate all of our sponsors, all of our daily sponsors here on the Babin on the Bayou show, between Shield Heating and Cooling, Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes and Confections, and NOLA Plumbing and Construction. Love all of those teams. Great people. They do great work. And we greatly appreciate them for being daily sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. All right, so we got a lot to get into today. Thank you, Randy. I see you in the chat, my friend. Thank you, my friend, for always staying locked in and tuning into the show. I thank you and very much appreciate you, my friend Randy. Hope you are doing well. All right, let's get into this. As I've said, we have a lot to cover on the LSU baseball front, and Jay Johnson just continues to do Jay Johnson things. I mean, we've talked about it. Obviously, the 2026 season was a massive disappointment. It was a disaster. For the first time in 15 years, for the first time since 2011, LSU baseball failed to make the NCAA tournament. Their last game of the season was a loss when they got eliminated by Auburn in the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama. But ever since then, folks, then Jay Johnson has been hard at work, and he has been rolling and doing a phenomenal job so far in the offseason these past few weeks of assembling the roster through the portal. A lot of portal moves been made, commitments from top tier talent like Bino Waters, Landon Hood, Dawson Park, some other guys that we're going to get into on the show today that we haven't really covered or talked about yet. But the biggest and the best news that has come out over these last number of weeks as far as offseason news regarding the roster for next year for the 2027 season is the news that came out on Friday that LSU star shortstop Steven Milam will be returning to LSU in 2027. He will play a fourth year for the Tigers, finish out his career in 2027 with his senior season. And look, it cannot be overstated. It cannot be overstated how huge and how big it is to have Steven Milam back with the Tigers for a senior season in 2027. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Best defensive shortstop in the history of the LSU baseball program. Best defensive shortstop I've ever seen play at this university. One of the best defensive players in baseball that I've seen, period. I mean, he is absolutely elite of the elite. Steven Milam at shortstop. Like, it is it's a scary thought to just think about how many more defensive errors LSU would have had in the 2026 season if Steven Milam wasn't your shortstop. I mean, you had questions at times during the season at third base, at second base. You had questions at times at first base. Catching behind the plate was even a struggle at times throughout the season in 2026. But your bright, shining star, your very bright, shining star was Steven Milam defensively at the shortstop position. Again, best defensive shortstop in LSU history, in my opinion. Like, you're bringing back elite glove. You're bringing back an elite level defender. But not only are you bringing that back, you're bringing back a guy who is a 300 career hitter. I mean, he's batting 300 is his average in his 3 years at LSU and in his 3-year college career. And in this past season in 2026, excuse me, he hit 300 with double-digit home runs. He's actually, I believe he's had double-digit home runs in back-to-back seasons now at LSU, but he had double-digit home runs in 2026 along with that 300 average. He was around 300, excuse me. It might have been like 297 or something like that. But anyway, he was third on the team in homers, only behind Jake Brown and Cade Arambidi, and he drove in around 49, 50 RBIs. Like, that's the bat that you're getting back in Steven Milam, along with what we know he can do in the field as an elite level defender. And you also have a guy which in his 3 seasons at LSU, he's been the clutchest player on the team, arguably. I mean, in big moment after big moment in his 3-year college career so far, Steven Milam has come up clutch. He has answered the bell. He has answered the call almost every time. He was your best player in the postseason in 2024 with when you combine what he did in the SEC tournament in Hoover and what he did in the Chapel Hill Regional. And then I'll make the argument that he was your best and most consistent offensive player in 2025 and in the postseason, postseason Monster Milam in the postseason is different. And he was the best player in the postseason for you in 2024. And I think he was the best and most consistent offensive player for you in the postseason in 2025 on the way to winning your 8th national championship in program history. And he's coming off another great season in 2026. So you're getting back an elite glove, one of the best shortstop, the best defensive shortstop we've ever seen at LSU. You're getting back a career 300 hitter who just finished the season in which he hit double-digit home runs and drove in 50 runs. And then you're also getting back one of the clutchest players in this program over the last 3 years that he's been here. That's what you're getting back. And you combine that with just the pure experience factor, the veteran experience of a guy who's going to be going into his 4th year starting in the SEC. And he's proven that he can produce, and he can produce at a very, very high level. I think he's one of the best shortstops, period, we've ever seen at LSU. I think he's top 2, but I think it's between Bregman and Steven Milam, in my personal opinion, as far as best shortstops in LSU baseball history. I think Steven Milam is that good, and you return that veteran presence to this LSU baseball team in 2027. It is, again, it cannot be overstated the impact of having Steven Milam back. Like, it is just, it's huge, man. It's absolutely huge. It can't get much bigger. I mean, with all that he provides and the leadership, the veteran experience, the elite defensive level play that he's going to provide. And look, I think a point I wanted to make about this and what we've seen so far a few weeks into the offseason is a lot of people, I know my guy Paul Jarrett and others have talked about the money situation. Is Jay Johnson getting the money that he needs and everything that he needs and everything that he wants to keep up with some of the other big spending programs, not only in the SEC, but across the country in the sport of college baseball? I want to give credit to this athletic department. Like, I want to give credit to this athletic department, at least so far in the offseason, because money has not been an issue. Money has not been an issue. Guys, you've signed 2 of the top 3 portal players in this year's portal cycle in Bino Waters, the former Notre Dame outfielder, and former Gonzaga right-handed pitcher Landon Hood. Like, those are 2 of the top 3 portal prospects in this year's portal class. you have 3 of the top 15 when you combine Waters and Hood with Texas State shortstop Dawson Park. And now, so you're spending money. I mean, Bino Waters is the number 1 portal player in this year's portal cycle, and Texas was going after him. Like I think Texas had the early lead, or at least that was the report. And we know that they are one of the top spenders in the sport in terms of programs who like to spend a lot of money. You're talking about programs like Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, among others. And you were able to go toe-to-toe with Texas for Bino Waters, and you were able to get them. And I know that cost you some money. And I know it definitely cost you some money to get Steven Milam to come back. Like, I know Steven Milam loves LSU. He's committed to LSU, and he wants to finish this thing off in the right way because he loves Baton Rouge and he considers it his home. But it's not like it didn't cost you any money to keep Steven Milam. Like it definitely did. But time after time after time after time over the past couple of weeks, at least so far in the offseason, I want to give credit where credit's due. Money hasn't been an issue. Money has not been an issue so far. And when you're talking about keeping a guy like Steven Milam, I mean, I've talked about it. Like, between Milam, Curiel, and Jake Brown, if you could keep one of those 3, I would be super, super excited. And you've done that. You've done that with Steven Milam. And it is, I mean, man, it's awesome to have Monster back, a guy who loves LSU, a guy who's committed to LSU, and just a guy who is so effortless on the diamond, playing defensively at the shortstop position. And you combine that with his bat as well as a 300 average hitter in his 3 years at LSU. It doesn't get much better than that. Now, again, I don't think Derek Curiel is coming back. I honestly don't think there's a shot that Derek Curiel is coming back. I know some people are still optimistic about Jake Brown, and I would love to get Jake Brown back. I don't know how possible that is. It's kind of a wait and see game right now for me with Jake Brown. But like the fact that not only did you get Steven Milam, right? Like you got him to stay, but you got him to withdraw his name from the 2026 MLB draft like a month before the draft happened. The draft is in mid-July, and you got him to him to withdraw his name from the draft, and you're getting back the best defensive shortstop I've ever seen come to this university, and one of the best shortstops, period, I've seen at LSU. Again, I think it's between him and Alex Bregman when you look at best shortstops in LSU history. I think Steven Milam is that good. But I think as we go through more today with the roster, I think you combine that. You combine bringing back your star shortstop in Steven Milam, who, yes, I believe absolutely you do not move Steven Milam. I don't think you move Steven Milam. He's your shortstop. He's your whatever you want to call it, Jay Johnson's, go-to guy in the field, and you want to put your best defender at the shortstop position to cover ground, and that is Steven Milam. So you return Steven Milam, but also you added a guy out of the transfer portal who we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about yet, and former Florida Gator infielder Cade Kurland. Cade Kurland, like Steven Milam, has so much experience in college baseball, so much veteran experience in college baseball. Cade Kurland was a freshman on the Florida team in 2023 that lost to LSU in the CWS finals. He was a freshman on that team, and he was a dang good freshman. He was a freshman All-American that season. He hit 297 with 17 bombs and 50 RBIs as a freshman in 2023 at Florida. He was a freshman All-American. Now, in his 3 seasons at Florida since then, he hasn't been as good. He's still been solid, but his best season by far was his freshman season in 2023. That included, I wanted to add this as well, in that freshman season, in the 3 games that Florida played in the CWS finals against LSU, in that series for the national championship in 2023, Cade Kurland had 5 hits and a homer. So, again, phenomenal freshman campaign for Cade Kurland. Now, 24, 25, 26 were not as good as that freshman year in 2023. Like, we can be honest about that. He dealt with a couple things injury-wise. He dealt with a couple things physically. He only hit 245 in 2024. And then in 2025, he only played in 13 games at Florida in 2025 because he had a shoulder injury that basically cost him his season. Was eventually able to get a red shirt for that 2025 season since he only played 13 games. That's why he still has another year of eligibility. And then in 2026, this past season, looking at his numbers, he hit 279 on the season, 7 doubles, 9 homers, 33 runs driven in. So Cade Kurland, like with Steven Milam, very veteran, very experienced player in the SEC. Yes, he has battled with injury the last few seasons at Florida, but when he's been healthy, when he's been 100%, he's produced, and he's produced at a very, very high level in the SEC. Like, that is what you have in Cade Kurland at the plate. And for a second baseman, he's got some good power. He's got some good pop for a second baseman. He's got 43 home runs in his college career at Florida in the SEC at second base, mostly during that 4-year career. Obviously, that third year was cut short because of that shoulder injury that limited him to 13 games. But not only do you have that, not only do you have that level of offensive production from Cade Kurland, but you also have a very, very good glove, a very, very good defender at second base in Cade Kurland. Cade Kurland has only made 2 defensive errors in his last 60 games. Only 2 errors at second base in his last 60 games. So, yes, he's got 43 homers in his career in the SEC playing at Florida, and he had a phenomenal freshman season. And when he's been healthy, he's been able to produce and produce well at Florida. But he's also a very, very good defensive second baseman, which is something we emphasized kind of going through before the portal started. What do you need? What do you need the most? Yes, of course, you're going to bring in big bats with power and who have offensive production, but you also needed athletic guys who could play good defense. And that's Cade Kurland. He's a very, very good defender at second base. But when you combine Cade Kurland with Steven Milam up the middle, you're going to have one of the most experienced middle infields in the entire country in 2027. I mean, you have Steven Milam, a 3-year starter at LSU. We know how great he is. But then you have Cade Kurland, who's played 192 college baseball games in his career, and he's hit around 275, 280 in his college career, and he's got 43 bombs in 4 seasons at Florida. I think the veteran leadership and veteran presence of both of those guys up the middle is going to be massive for this team in 2027. I don't think that can be overstated. And just the fact that the 2 guys you have up the middle are going to be so experienced with Steven Milam and with Cade Kurland. You move around the infield. We've talked about Mason Braun looking like he's going to stay at first base and be your everyday first baseman next year in 2027. When we go through this, I do want to say it's very early in the offseason. Like, there's still a lot to play out. There's still a few weeks of the portal left. There's still the draft and everything to fall out of that. Does Jake Brown come back potentially? How many high school players that are currently committed to you, how many leave to go pro, and how many ultimately come to campus and play in Baton Rouge? We're just talking about what you have so far. But you have Cade Kurland, you have Steven Milam. I think it's going to be one of the most veteran, most experienced middle infields in the country in 2027. And then you have a guy in Mason Braun at first base who had a very, very impressive, outstanding freshman season. I mean, Mason Braun as a freshman led LSU's team in on base percentage. He led LSU's team in batting average in SEC regular season play. He hit over 350 last year in SEC regular season play. Mason Braun did as a true freshman, and he showed an elite level plate discipline as a freshman. You also got to remember defensively for Mason Braun, he's played outfield for most of his career. He played outfield in high school. He hasn't played a ton of first base, and he was inserted kind of halfway through the season towards the back half of SEC play. He was inserted as your everyday first baseman, and I think he did a solid job defensively at first base, and he's only going to get better the more reps he gets. And then he also never really led off before in his baseball career before this past season at LSU. He's not a leadoff batter, or he hadn't been a leadoff batter ever really before 2026 at LSU. And then you put him in the leadoff position, and he was great at it. He was a great leadoff hitter because he led the team in on base percentage. And because for a freshman, he had elite level plate discipline, and Mason Braun's only going to get better. You move to third base. You're right now, it's looking like you're going to have Texas State shortstop Dawson Park. Dawson Park's interesting. When you look at the tape and the video for Dawson Park, he's a very good defender. He's a very athletic player. He's got good range. He's got a good arm. He's got a good glove. He is a good defender. You have that in Dawson Park, to say the least. Offensively, what's interesting about him is he hit 219 in 2025 as a freshman at Texas State. This past year as a sophomore in 2026, he hit 301. So his batting average jumped up 80 points from freshman to sophomore year at Texas State. And he also had double-digit homers this past year as a sophomore at Texas State. And so that development, if it can continue, and you know Jay Johnson, how good he is at developing players, especially at the plate, especially offensively, that can be really, really good for you in Dawson Park. But at least you know you're going to have a really athletic guy and a really, really good defender. I think when it comes to Steven Milam and Cade Kurland at short and second, when it comes to Dawson Park at third, when it comes to Mason Braun at first, one of my again, I know we're early in the offseason, but one of the things that stands out to me is in 2026, we've talked a lot about this, the transfers you brought in the infield. Like, we can be honest with it. Trent Caraway, Braden Simpson, Zach York, like the guys you brought in the infield, not only did their bats not translate to the SEC, and they didn't have really good offensive success in the SEC, but you could tell halfway through the season that they weren't that athletic defensively in the infield. You weren't, besides Steven Milam, your infield wasn't that athletic and it wasn't that good because of the guys you brought in that you honestly misevaluated, and they weren't that athletically gifted defensively between Caraway and York and Simpson. And because of that, Steven Milam was really the only defender at times that you could rely on in the infield at shortstop. My point is, not only did the bats not translate to the SEC for some of those transfers, but the athleticism didn't translate in the infield to where it felt like halfway through the 2026 season, you were like, well, your infield is what it is this season, and you can't really change anything about it or do anything about it mid-season. I don't think that's going to happen in 2027 because you have Steven Milam, again, the best defensive shortstop to come through this program. You have Mason Braun, who I think was solid and pretty good at first base defensively, and really his first season at first base, and he's only going to get better there the more reps he can get. You have Cade Kurland, who's a very, very good defensive second baseman, athletic guy, and he's only made 2 defensive errors in the last 60 games that he has played in, Cade Kurland. And then Dawson Park, very rangy, very athletic, very good arm, very good defender. What's my point in that? You are going to be a lot more athletic in the infield in 2027 than you were in 2026. Like, I don't think it's going to be even close. And that's something we really stressed in the offseason going into the portal is your infield defensively outside of Steven Milam was a problem for the majority of 2026. You brought in guys like Cade Kurland and Dawson Park to go along with guys like Steven Milam and Mason Braun that are really, really going to help you because they're very, very athletically gifted. And both Kurland and Park are really, really good defensive players and have really good gloves. You also have behind the plate, Cade Beatty and Omar Cerna, 2 guys who I thought Cade Beatty had a great season. He had a great, great season at the plate in 2026. I mean, he hit over 340 in SEC conference play. He led the team in homers with 18 home runs, led the team in RBIs, led the team in slugging percentage. I'll make the argument that for the last, really from the Tennessee series on, Cade Beatty was the most dangerous offensive weapon in your lineup. Like that's how good he was. And Jay Johnson has raved about Cade Beatty and the fact that he's so talented that at some point he's going to wind up being the best player on your team, on this LSU team at some point during his college career. That could wind up being the case in 2027. He could be the best player on this team in 2027. Now, I give that edge right now to Steven Milam because of his veteran experience, because of his leadership, and because of how good we all know he is. But Cade Beatty had a massive, massive season in 2026. And then I thought Omar Cerna was very, very impressive at the plate as a freshman. For a guy who dealt with some injuries as far as his back injuries and stuff like that, I thought Omar Cerna at the plate when he went, I thought he showed up and showed out and had a great freshman season. I thought it was great freshman seasons for both Omar Cerna and Mason Braun. I thought both of those guys were very, very impressive as freshmen, and they're only going to get better. So Aaron Beatty and Cerna are going to hold down the DH/catcher position. Now, could both of those guys get a little bit better defensively behind the plate at catcher? Absolutely. At times they struggled. Wild pitches, pass balls, stuff like that. But those guys are going to develop. They're going to get better, and I think they will be better defensively behind the plate. And we already know they both can hit. Like they both can produce offensively. We know Steven Milam can produce offensively. We know Mason Braun can produce offensively. We know Cade Kurland produced offensively at Florida. Like that's what you have in the infield, and in the outfield, you can't forget about the best portal player that you signed, the best portal player that committed to you, the number one portal player in this year's cycle, in Notre Dame outfielder Bino Waters. Like Bino Waters in the ACC, in the second best conference in college baseball, hit 360 this season with double-digit home runs and 18 doubles. He's been the best player in the he's been one of the best players in the ACC his first two seasons in college baseball at Notre Dame. He's very, very good. When you look at the videos and the highlights of the tape of Bino Waters, he has some opposite field power. He can definitely hit it the other way. That's something that Jay Johnson talks about a lot, and that's one of the things that I notice when I look at Bino Waters and look at some of the stuff he did at Notre Dame. He's able to hit to the opposite field. He's got opposite field power and can hit it the other way. And again, he's been a first-team All-ACC player in 2026 in the second best conference in college baseball. And I think he's going to nab down one of your corner outfield spots, probably left field, because I think that's what he played most of the time at Notre Dame. And then in right field, you have right now, and again, this can change. It's very, very early in the offseason. But in right field right now, you have Jason Wachs. Jason Wachs, the outfielder from Tulane, who you just signed. That was announced yesterday. Excuse me. This was another big signing. A guy in Jason Wachs who has been the best offensive player on Tulane's team the past two seasons. And this past year, Jason Wachs hit 327, 21 doubles, 9 homers, and 54 RBIs for Tulane in 2026. He got on base really well, 453 on base percentage. He drew walks as much as he struck out. 38 strikeouts to 38 walks drawn on the season in 2026 for Jason Wachs at Tulane. And he was also hit by pitch 12 times along with those 38 walks drawn, and again got on base a lot. I think really when you pay attention to Jason Wachs, he did play LSU in a midweek game in the box this season in 2026. In that game, Jason Wachs went 3 for 5 with a homer in that midweek game against LSU. He's played 107 games at Tulane in his previous two seasons of college baseball. And I got to shout out Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports threw out the stat yesterday, and it'll kind of lead, or not yesterday, he threw it out on X today, AYS Sports, Blake Ruffino. He said when looking at Jason Wachs' numbers against LSU, Mississippi State, TCU, and UCLA, against those four Power Four programs, LSU, Mississippi State, TCU, and UCLA, Jason Wachs went 12 for 17 with 11 RBIs and 4 walks drawn against those four Power Four schools. Like, those are highly, highly impressive numbers. And that's something I want to get into. I understand that when it comes to the portal, you're going to have questions now. Like you're going to have questions now with how the portal did not work in your favor in 2026. You're going to have questions now about some of these guys. Oh, can they translate to the SEC? Can they be good offensively in the SEC? I want to go around the diamond. Who do we know is proven in the SEC right now? Because when you look at it, to me, Zach York came over from Grand Canyon. His bat didn't translate. Braden Simpson came over from High Point. His bat didn't translate. Trent Caraway came over from Oregon State, yes, but statistically, Trent Caraway did not have a great regular season offensively at Oregon State in 2025. He really turned it on and showed up and showed out in the postseason for Oregon State. He was great in the postseason for Oregon State last year, not so much in the regular season. You have those guys who did not translate offensively to the SEC. They didn't. But you know Omar Cerna can produce in the SEC. You know Cade Beatty can. You know Mason Braun can. You definitely know Steven Milam can. That's four guys that are going to be in your lineup every day next year that you know can produce offensively in the SEC. You know Cade Kurland, when he's healthy, can produce in the SEC. Like, again, as a true freshman in the SEC, he hit 17 bombs and drove in 50 runs in 2023 with a 297 batting average. And he's got 43 homers in 4 seasons in the SEC at Florida. You know when Cade Kurland's healthy, he can produce. I think you know Bino Waters can produce. Look, Bino Waters didn't play in the SEC. We know the SEC is without a shadow of a doubt. It's not even close. We know the SEC is the best conference in college baseball. It's not even close. It's not even a discussion. But the ACC is the second best conference in college baseball. And Bino Waters was a first team All ACC player in a conference that has teams like Georgia Tech, Florida State, North Carolina, Miami. And he was a first team All ACC player. He hit 362 with double digit homers and 18 doubles this past season and produced well in the ACC, in the second best conference in America, in a Power Four conference. I don't really have questions about Bino Waters' bat translating to the SEC. I really don't. I think he's going to be able to translate to the SEC. There's a reason that he was the number one portal player. He was the number one portal player for a reason. Texas, the Longhorns, were going after him for a reason. And I don't have questions about Bino Waters and his bat translating to the SEC. You can move around the diamond and say Dawson Park translating him coming over offensively from the Sun Belt to the SEC. But again, that's a guy who developed and showed out nicely from his freshman to sophomore year. His batting average went up 80 points from his freshman to sophomore year at Texas State. And then Jason Wachs, like I said earlier, and like Blake Ruffino threw that great stat out against 4 Power 4 schools this season: LSU, UCLA, TCU, Mississippi State. Jason Wachs went 12 for 17 with 11 RBIs and 4 walks. Like, against Power 4 schools, he was able to produce at a high level at Tulane in those big games, in those marquee games. What is my point in saying all of this? I think you have guys that you're bringing in and out of the portal who are proven. Yes, you have the guys returning, Milam, Braun, Beatty, Cerna, who are proven in the SEC. Bino Waters, he was one of the best players in the ACC this past season, and that's the second best conference in college baseball. Jason Wachs, again, another guy who produced well on the big stages in big games for Tulane. Cade Kurland, when he's been healthy, we know he's been able to produce and show up and show out at Florida. My point in all of this is you have guys, the guys you're bringing in are proven. They're proven. You know they can produce. You're not getting guys over from Grand Canyon or High Point who, yes, they had, and I don't mean dog on those players. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it's obvious they're their hitting skills did not translate to the SEC guys. Like that's obvious. But you've got two of your top transfer portal players that you brought in are from P4 schools in Bino Waters and in Cade Kurland, and they produced at a high level. I think that's a big thing. I think it's a big thing in the infield that you're lining up to be a lot more athletically gifted and athletically talented in the infield. The one position we haven't really talked about yet is center field. Look, I know Jake Brown's got a chance of coming back. I would love Jake Brown to come back. I don't think Derek Carrio's coming back. I kind of have eliminated that already. I don't think that's going to happen. I would love Jake Brown to come back. And I think if he does come back, he would plug in right into center field. That's what I think you would do. It's kind of a wait and see game for me. I would love it, and I would love for him to come back, but we got to see, right? If Jake Brown doesn't come back, I think right now it's lining up where William Patrick will be your starting center fielder. Now, William Patrick, few things about him. He's fast. He is speedy. He's going to be the fastest player on this team next year. He's very athletically gifted. He's got all the athletic tools that you need, which is why I think he can and will end up being a good center fielder at LSU because he has all the athletic tools that he needs. Now, offensively, yes, his game needs to come along at the plate. He only hit 220 as a freshman and 41 at bats. I believe he struck out like 15 times. That's got to be better. Like, yes, but he's athletically gifted. He's fast. He's speedy. I think he could wind up with development being a really, really good center fielder. And again, he's a guy that you did not really expect to. You didn't really expect him to have to play the role that he did towards the end of the season. Like Jake Brown gets hurt, Jack Rucker and William Patrick have to step up in positions that we didn't expect them to play in as true freshmen. And obviously, it was up and down for William Patrick, at least offensively at the plate. I think he showed some good signs and he's got some ability. And with development, again, he's got all the athletic tools that he needs and he's got the speed that he needs to be a very, very good player for you. He just needs to develop and get more work in over the all season at the plate to improve. And I think he can. We've seen a lot of players take that jump from year one to year two, from freshman to sophomore year. Hopefully, William Patrick can be that guy for you. I think positionally, man, your offense, again, I know all this is early. It's still June. Like the 2026 baseball season is still not over. Like Omaha is going on as we speak, right? I know it's early, but I am very, very excited about how you're lining up right now positionally, not only at the plate, because you got guys who I know are going to be able to produce. I'm really excited to see guys like Bino Waters and Cade Kurland in the purple and gold, along with Milam, Beatty, Cerna, and Braun, who've already done great things. I also think you're going to be much, much better defensively because the guys you brought in out of the portal, frankly, are more athletically gifted than guys you brought in out of the portal last year. Like, I'm just being honest about that. Cade Kurland has a good glove. Dawson Park has a good glove. Like, that's what you're bringing in, right? And I'm very, very confident that you are going to, again, I'm very confident in what you're going to be able to do offensively and defensively in 2027. I don't really know if you bring in another position player out of the portal. You could. I don't really see right now why. I mean, you could. I don't really see what else you need positionally or offensively out of the portal. I think your attention now has to turn to the mound. Like your attention now has to turn to the mound. It has to turn to the bullpen because guys like, I'm not saying the LSU offense was great in 2026. It wasn't. It was inconsistent at times. But towards the final month, the month and a half of the season, they were producing at a pretty solid level. I think the offense was, I don't think you had a bad offense in 2026. Was it inconsistent at times? Yes. But I really think they were very, very good in the final month, a month and a half of the season. Your Achilles heel was your bullpen and your pitching staff. I mean, let's be honest about it. They were bad. They were just, it was bad. It was a terrible season for you on the mound. Now, injuries like what happened to Cooper Moore definitely contributed to that. But bottom line, that's what it was. Like your pitching staff was your biggest issue, was your weakest link in 2026. Now I know you got Casey Evans and Cooper Moore and William Schmidt returning, along with freshmen who impressed me personally in 2026, and guys like Marcos Paz and Reagan Ricken. You got Landon Hood, one of the best pitchers out of the transfer portal. You still need to add in the bullpen. Like you still have to add in the bullpen, and that's where I think the attention turns to. Right now, the only left-handed that you have confirmed returning next season is Danny Lockenmeyer. Now, guys like Santiago Garcia and Cooper Williams could return in 2027 for you, but right now, Lockenmeyer is the only confirmed left-hander that you have returning. So my mind is now my attention turns into adding a few arms out of the portal because yes, I am very, very confident in what you have and what it's shaping up to be positionally for you in 2027. But your pitching staff was by far your weakest link in 2026. It was really, really bad. And now I think that's where your attention turns to, especially in the bullpen. Because you're losing your best pitchers out of the bullpen, from Zach Cowan to Grant Fontenot to Devin Sheeran to maybe Gavin Guidry. Like those four were your best and most consistent arms out of the bullpen. You're losing all four of those guys in a bullpen that was already really bad. So I'm very, very impressed and very, very happy with what Jay has done so far in the portal. Now your attention turns to the mound, in my opinion. But again, I trust Nate Yeski and Jay Johnson. They've already done great things in the portal. Great work through the first couple weeks of the off season in the portal and getting Steven Milam back, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. But yeah, I'm very excited what you have positionally, and now I think the attention turns, to adding on the mound. That's what I think the attention turns to. Let's get to the comments here. I want to get to the comments here. Let's see. What's up, Paul? What's up, Paul? How are you doing, my friend? How are you doing? Talking baseball. Love it. We all love it. Postseason Milam is the gospel truth. Yes, postseason, but yes, I mean, he's been. I'll make the argument in your last two postseasons in 2024, 2025, he was your best offensive player. Like that's the argument I've made. He's clutch. He's elite defensively, and he also is coming off a very, very good statistical offensive season in 2026. Derek Carriel is looking like a first-round draft pick from what I've been hearing. Yeah, I've kind of written off Curiel as far as coming back. Still holding out hope for Jake Brown. Yeah, me too, Randy. Me too. Talk about a perfect number 8. I know it's a long shot, but one can hope. No one can top the monster at shortstop. That is true. Personally, don't believe it's a long shot. Yeah, I would love it. I would love it if Jake Brown would come back. I would definitely love that. Let's see here. All right, let's see. What's up? What's up, AP? What's up, Randy? What's up, AP? What's up, Paul? Thank you all for tuning into the chat. I greatly appreciate all of you guys. But another point I wanted to touch on, we could touch on LSU recruiting and high school recruiting for LSU football. We'll definitely get into that. They picked up another commit today, and I don't want to butcher this name, but Amazia Ciale, 3-star offensive tackle Amazia Ciale, who was a Cal commit, flipped his commitment today from Cal to LSU and basically shut down his recruitment. So that's big news. That's big news. Your first offensive line commit in football for this 2027 high school recruiting class. You got a few guys visiting tomorrow that I mean, 5-star wide receiver Manchin Sales out of Indiana is going to be on campus starting tomorrow. That's big. I mean, Manchin Sales and Easton Aurora are the two best wide receivers in this 2027 class. That's huge, getting him on campus. And then you also have a 4-star edge rusher in Chris Whitehead Jr., who's also going to be on campus starting tomorrow. So obviously there's more stuff on the on the recruiting trail that we need to get to in later episodes. I plan to get to it tomorrow. Biggest news today was the flip commitment of Amazia Siale flipping from Cal to LSU, the 3-star offensive tackle. We'll get into more details about that tomorrow. But man, I think it's interesting how we talked a lot about how 2025 to 2026, like fall 2025, spring 2026 was terrible for LSU in athletically in the three major sports. You go 7-6 in football, 7-6 in football leads to Brian Kelly getting fired. Matt McMahon in men's basketball has another terrible season, leads to Matt McMahon getting fired. And then LSU baseball and Jay Johnson had one of their worst seasons in quite a long time, missing the postseason for the first time since 2011. Obviously, it was a terrible academic athletic year for LSU when you look at fall 2025 and spring 2026 combined in the three major sports. But you have hope. You believe in Lane Kiffin. You believe you made the exact right hire. You went out and you got the guy that you wanted. You got the number one guy that not only you wanted, but everybody else wanted as well, and you got him. You also got Will Wade in men's basketball. You got basically Louisiana's adopted son. You got him to return, who the best college basketball of my lifetime that I can remember at LSU was under Will Wade. Like that's the best. LSU basketball was the best in my lifetime that I can remember. I know they made I think they made the Final Four when I was like 2 or 3, but the best LSU basketball during my time really following it was when Will Wade was here. You got him back. And then you still believe in Jay Johnson. Like, I still believe Jay Johnson is the best coach in the sport. He's still the best coach in college baseball. And you have a situation where, again, Jay Johnson has had a lot more time to evaluate. He's had since the end of May, guys, since the end of May to evaluate talent out of the transfer portal and to target the guys that he needed to target, and that leads to you getting Bino Waters out of the transfer portal, Landon Hood, Dawson Park. And now you add on top of that the biggest news of all, that Steven Milam is returning. Like, it can't, like, that, what Jay Johnson has done the past few weeks in the portal has been incredible, and he's going to continue, and I don't think he's stopping. Again, I think attention now turns to the mound. The interesting point I wanted to make in how all three of these are interconnected with football, with men's basketball, with baseball, is it's kind of crazy how Lane Kiffin is known as the portal king. Lane Kiffin is known as the portal king of college football. Like, he was the first guy to fully dive head first to the portal and really make it his own and take over at Ole Miss. And he built roster after roster after roster that was heavy on the transfer portal at Ole Miss. And that led to 6 years at Ole Miss. He had 4 10-win seasons. You have a terrible season under Brian Kelly, leads to him getting fired. Lane Kiffin comes, and in January, in the transfer portal, the portal king works his magic. You bring in 40-plus transfer portal prospects, one of the best, maybe the best transfer portal haul that any school brought in January, and that includes 3 of the top 5 portal prospects in the country, and guys like Sam Levitt, Jordan Seaton, Prince William Monmielen, like, rebuilding through the portal with the portal king. But not only Lane Kiffin, like, I know that's his moniker, and I know that's when that's what he's called, and that's the moniker that he has earned over the years in the sport of college football. But think about what Will Wade's done in the portal. And it hasn't come without controversy, right? Like, it hasn't come without controversy. But Austin Nunez, Abdi Bashir, Divine Ugochukwu, which I'm probably butchering that name. You also have Mo Diabate. Like, those are the 4 guys that are confirmed going to be on this roster. Will Wade's first roster back as the LSU men's basketball head coach. And I know there's some questions about the guys you're bringing over from the EuroLeague, if they're all going to be able to play, if they're all going to be eligible. The biggest question for me is around a guy like RJ Lewis, who signed a two-way contract with two NBA teams in both the Utah Jazz and the Boston Celtics. But Will Wade, if his team, if most of the guys on this team are going to get granted eligibility, they will be one of the most veteran, most experienced college basketball teams in college basketball this year. They will be basically a semi-pro team filled with 23, 24, 25-year-olds playing college basketball. They're going to be one of the best and most experienced teams in the SEC. And I think the Brendan Sorsby situation at this point, I've said it before. I said it last week. The Brendan Sorsby situation changes everything for me. Like, I don't care. Everybody should be eligible for LSU. If Brendan Sorsby is going to be allowed to be given eligibility, if he's going to be allowed to play for Texas Tech in 2026 after all that he did, then every player on LSU's basketball team right now should be granted eligibility. I mean, if that's what you're going to do. And I've said publicly, do I think guys like R.J. Lewis, who signed two-way contracts with NBA teams, are good for the sport to allow them to come back to college basketball? No. In a perfect world, I don't think R.J. Lewis should be granted eligibility. But if you're going to let it Brendan Sorsby play, if you're going to let it be the Wild West, then who cares anymore, right? Who cares anymore? So not only do you have Lane Kiffin rebuilding through the portal, you have the same thing with Will Wade and now with Jay Johnson after a disaster of a 2026 baseball season. You signed 3 of the top 15 portal prospects in the country in Bino Waters, in Landon Hood, in Dawson Park, and you get Steven Milam back, and you're still, I don't think you're done in the portal. Like, you also add Cade Kurland and Jason Wachs to that mix. And I think you're going to add more on the mound in the portal as well. What's interesting to me is, man, we use the moniker of Portal King for Lane Kiffin. Like, we use that moniker for him, and he's earned that. But not only that Lane Kiffin rebuilding his roster through the portal, but Will Wade is doing it. Jay Johnson is doing it. Now, just because you're signing the best players out of the portal who all have great portal rankings, I mean, it's kind of hard to rank EuroLeague players in college basketball with Will Wade. That's the only part where this doesn't apply. But it's like, think about it. In both football and basketball, or in both football and baseball, excuse me. In football, you sign 3 of the top 5 portal players. In baseball, you sign 2 of the top 3 portal players. So even in a terrible year that we came off of, with football, men's basketball, and baseball all struggling, it's interesting to see at the same time all of these coaches rebuilding their roster through the portal. Now, that doesn't mean that, of course, you have to develop chemistry and camaraderie and cohesion and become a team. Like, you have to become a team. But I think it's going to be interesting this 2026, 2027, next year for LSU, after rebuilding all of these rosters through the portal. Not only, I mean, you got Lane Kiffin starting on September 5th. Then you're going to have Will Wade later start his first season back at LSU in November. Really, really feeling confident with what you have right now. As long as the pitching comes around, I really feel confident in what you have right now, positionally set up for baseball in 2027. So, again, I feel like it's all kind of interconnected right now. Yes, you all had bad seasons this past year. This past year sucked at LSU for all 3 sports. But now all 3 of those coaches are building, maybe to different degrees and different levels, but all 3 of those coaches are rebuilding through the transfer portal. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting, man. This next year is going to be crazy in LSU athletics, and I cannot wait to cover it. I cannot wait to talk about it. And it starts with September 5th. It starts with Clemson, and it continues. And, so much similarities right now between your 3 sports, between football, men's basketball, and baseball. Like, there's so much similarities there. And I really think it's going to be interesting to monitor over this next year. But that's pretty much all I have on the show today for you guys. I thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Like the video, share the video with a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Yeah, I thank you guys as always for tuning in to the show. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, probably talking some LSU football recruiting, and some other stuff as well. We'll get to that when we get to it, but we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys from Paul to Randy to AP to all of you for tuning in to the show. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Like the video, share the video with a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Remember, as always, God bless, go Tigers, love God, love people. Babin on the Bayou, out.